Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're here to officially welcome Inter Miami head coach Phil Neville and Chief Soccer Officer and Sporting Director Chris Henderson. To get us started, I'd like to welcome Inter Miami co-owners Jorge Mas and David Beckham, who will provide some opening remarks followed by a media Q&A session before we continue on with Phil and Chris. At this point, I'd like to ask Jorge to please kick us off.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And to me, an honor and a privilege today to be here next to my partner, my friend David Beckham, and discuss items related to Inter Miami. But before that, I want to wish everybody many blessings, a happy new year, and may 2021 bring us, good health and safety above everything. I want to go back and talk a little bit about the beginning of Inter Miami, what drives our club, and since day one, among the ownership group and everyone who has been a part of our organization and a team, they know we're an aspirational organization, a team that wants to build the DNA and culture that hopefully is unique to the MLS and allows us the ability to establish a winning culture here in South Florida, reflective of the passion that exists here for football, for soccer, and as a personification of our fans, and I think resemblance of the diverse community that we live in. So, without a doubt, to launch in 2020, ourselves in Nashville was a very difficult year to launch. We do not and will not use COVID as an excuse either for our performance or on the pitch or any other reason. Every single team in the league had to go through their difficulties, their obstacles, and their challenges. Notwithstanding that, I think that we had some major achievements in this past year, which was first to kick off and bring football back to South Florida, to build an amazing facility, a state-of-the-art training center for our players and our teams and our academy system, to build a stadium, which we're in the bowels of now, which will house 19,000 rabid and passionate fans. And I want to thank the mayor and the city of Fort Lauderdale for helping us and cooperating and being able to build this facility in record time and be ready for, at that time, the launch of the 2020 season that unfortunately got postponed. But today we are here to make, two announcements. The announcement of Phil Neville as our manager and our head coach, and Chris Henderson as our sporting director and our chief soccer officer. And it's important to note that from ownership's point of view, we are emphasizing and we're laser focused on continuing to build a winning culture here, to make sure that when our players or anyone who joins our organization, they become better people and better players once they've been through Inter Miami and the infrastructure and the system that we have established here. I know that we're going to be taking questions shortly, but again, I want to reiterate that this is a new chapter for Inter Miami. We very much look forward to the opening of the 21 season with new leadership on board to aspire to again, a winning culture, and most importantly, to hopefully be competing for cups in the future.
Thank you, Jorge. Can you please offer some thoughts in Spanish as well?
Sí, antes de todo quiero agradecer, primero desearle a todo el mundo un feliz 2021, muchas bendiciones y especialmente salud. Cuando la creación de Inter Miami, que siempre queríamos nosotros como dueños que sea un reflejo de nuestra comunidad, de la pasión para el fútbol y la diversidad de nuestra comunidad sea reflejada en tu equipo, en lo que es Inter Miami. Y para nosotros era importante enfocar en establecer una cultura aquí en Inter Miami, donde sean jugadores, ejecutivos o personas que son parte del equipo Inter Miami puedan seguir elevándose como mejores seres humanos, mejores jugadoras y en realidad elevar la excelencia del equipo y el deporte aquí en el sur de la Florida. Estamos aquí hoy para anunciar el nuevo director técnico, que es Phil Neville, y el nuevo director deportivo, que es Chris Henderson, que viene de Seattle. Sin duda el año 2020 para nosotros lleno de obstáculos, dado al COVID y la pandemia. Fue un año extremadamente difícil para lanzarnos en nuestra primera temporada, pero para nosotros no es una excusa al COVID. Y nosotros vamos a seguir enfocando para mejorar la cultura del equipo, para establecer una DNA que es única en esta liga, para establecer una cultura de poder ganar, de poder competir para copas constantemente. So, para mí hoy, aquí junto con David Beckham, me da agrado en presentar a los nuevos líderes de este club y reiterar nuestro compromiso al sur de la Florida, que por parte de los dueños nosotros vamos a seguir invirtiendo no solamente en la infraestructura, que tenemos aquí un centro de entrenamiento que en mi estimación es el mejor del país y un estadio donde ojalá que pronto en este año podemos tener 19,000 fanáticos celebrando con su equipo aquí durante partidos. Pero les doy la bienvenida y adelante Inter Miami. Jackie.
Thank you, Jorge. David, if I could also ask you to share some thoughts, please.
Of course, thank you, Jackie, and of course, thank you, Jorge. Firstly, I want to say it's great to be back in Miami. I didn't think it would take this long to be able to travel again, but obviously now being back in Miami, it was my utmost priority to get back as soon as possible. So I'm very happy to be here. Happy New Year to everybody as we go into this next season. We're very excited and we wanted to give you a sense of our ambition. So welcome to everybody. Firstly, I'd obviously like to say thank you so much for the support that we've had from the media, from everybody that's been involved in this club, from our fans, from our staff, and everyone that is part of our club. We're very excited to go into this next season. You know, like I said, we've made a few changes, which we're very confident about. You know, obviously bringing Chris Henderson in and obviously Phil Neville with his experience and with their experience in the game. So we're very excited about that. Obviously, last season, you know, we achieved a lot. You know, if we spoke at the start of this as owners and as a club about, you know, this being a challenging season without what has gone on this year around the world. So the challenge, obviously, on the field, off the field was very evident. But I think the fact that we achieved a lot on the field, you know, reaching the playoffs, having the fans back in the stadium, the amount of fans that we've had, we were very proud of that. But we know going forward, you know, as a club, we always want to learn and evolve. And this is part of the next part of our history with this club. So very excited about this season, very excited to be back in Miami, and this was my utmost priority because last year it was very frustrating, you know, watching the games from, you know, my house in the UK at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. But now I've been here for the last 3 weeks and been able to be around the club and be around, you know, the staff and to see exactly what we need to do moving forward, which is why we've made the changes that we've made, which we're very, like I said, very confident about. But like I said, my priority was always to be back here and be around the facility, be around the players, and do exactly what I always dreamt of doing, which was be a very hands-on owner. So I'm very excited. And like I said, welcome to everybody again, and thank you for your support so far.
Thank you, David. At this point, we will open the floor for some questions. Please keep in mind, we do have over 60 media members on this call, so we ask you to limit your questions to one per opportunity. Please state your name, your outlet, and who your question is for once your line has been unmuted. Friendly reminder, questions in Spanish will only be answered by Jorge. For the first question, let's start with David Wilson. David, your line is off mute.
Hey guys, thanks for doing this. It's David Wilson from the Miami Herald. First of all, just what you saw from year one, what do you feel like you guys kind of saw from last season that sort of felt prompted the necessity to make some of these, you know, big changes, obviously? And what do you guys think you were bringing in with Phil and Chris that maybe was lacking last season?
You know, last season, and the decisions that we've made about bringing on board Chris Henderson and Phil Neville don't necessarily have to do with just wins and losses or the points that we accumulated during 2020. For us, as we alluded to earlier, it goes beyond that. It goes to what happens in non-game days. It goes to you know, building a culture here that goes into how do we make players better here. And it goes from aspects of sports performance, medical, training, nutrition, education, so many factors and facets that go into excelling on the field. And we felt, David and I, and especially I'm very gratified that he's here in Miami, and that his, fingerprints are on not only, these moves, but in everything that we're doing on the sporting side of Inter Miami. But these moves were precipitated by the fact that we as owners aspire, we won't settle for mediocrity, and we think that in bringing in new leadership that can help us excel in all of the areas, that will make us a better club and a better team, and again, establish a DNA and culture that's a reflection of ownership's aspirations. And we felt that bringing Chris and Phil at this time were the leaders that we needed for the following chapters of Inter Miami in 21 and beyond.
Yeah, and I'd also say that, obviously I can speak on the soccer side of things and what goes on around the training facility, what goes on the field, and I felt that I needed, someone to come in and someone, to make a change is something where we wanted to bring, the DNA into this club. And it's one thing I spoke about from day one about, indenting a DNA, a culture within this club, because we are a new team, we are a new franchise that's come into this league. So, there's a certain culture that has to run through the academy system to the USL and into the team, and also that runs through the building as well. So bringing in someone like Phil, I've had a long history with Phil, on the field, off the field. I know what he's like as a personality. I know what he's like as a coach, and I know what he's like as a human being. He's trustworthy, he's loyal, and he's hardworking. And I think that to bring that into our club, to bring that into our training facility, not just to work with our main team, our first team, but to work with the academy kids, the USL guys, our staff, and everyone that is within this club, because we have to indent a DNA that runs through this club, and that was why we made the moves and the decisions that we've made in the last few weeks.
Thank you, David. The next question is for Steve Brenner. Steve, your line is off mute.
Thanks, Jackie. Steve Brenner here from The Sun and other UK media. Just a question for you, David, just off the back of what you were saying about Phil. I mean, you've obviously known him for many years, hasn't really got too much experience in the men's game. What do you think he can really bring for the team? And also, you mentioned about watching the games at home and stuff. You've had a lot of success on and off the field. Was there ever a time where you thought that maybe you've kind of bitten off more than you can chew when things potentially weren't going as planned on the field?
No, never. There was never a moment where I didn't think it was too much or it was getting too much for myself, for the ownership group, for the club, for the players. But I knew pretty soon that we needed as an ownership group to make changes. And I think it was better doing it sooner rather than later. I think as you speak, obviously, about Phil's experience, and of course, he's had a few experiences, obviously, in the men's game, and obviously more recent in the women's national team. But Phil's experience comes as a player. He's worked with some of the best managers around the game. He's worked with some of the best players. He's been around most of the best academy systems within the Premier League and within soccer in general. So I think that experience is huge. Now, one of the reasons why I felt Phil would be a great fit within this club is because there's huge potential. There's huge potential to work with our academy kids. There's huge potential to work with our USL boys. And there's huge potential within our club and our first team where there are talented young players. And it's also combined with experienced players. And obviously with Phil's experience within, what he's been doing the last few years with the women's national team, I think he put himself into a position where, it was a challenge because he's not done that before. He's not been around, a women's national team before. And there's certain challenges that come with that and certain restrictions. And I think it also runs parallel with what happens within the MLS and what happens within this league as well. So I felt that a transition with that would be perfect. And like I said, you know, his experience comes from playing with some of the best players in the world, being managed and coached by the best coaches and managers within the game. And I have no doubt that that is where his experience lies. And we have full confidence, because we wouldn't have made this decision to bring Phil in at this level if we didn't know his capabilities.
Thank you, Steve. Next up, we will go to Kobe Price. Kobe, your line is off mute.
Thank you, Jackie. Thanks, Jorge and David, for joining us today. Had a question for both of you. David, you mentioned wanting to be more hands-on this year on the soccer side, soccer operations. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis for you? What exactly does that entail? And for Jorge, you mentioned the DNA, or you guys both mentioned the DNA not being there year one, or wanting to bring that DNA in year two. Why wasn't that in year one? Thank you.
Well, I think that, you know, I'll answer obviously what, you know, the obviously the first question that you asked me. And I think that for us, more importantly, that, you know, I always plan to be hands-on, and I have been hands-on, but unfortunately from the other side of the world, not for my decision. And, you know, that was obviously a tough year for me personally, because I felt that, you know, I always said from day one that I will be a hands-on owner. I will be over all the operations of the coaching staff, the academy system, everything that goes on the field and to do with the playing side was my responsibility. But obviously with everything that's gone on with the pandemic over the last year, it was impossible to be here. Now, obviously this year, you know, I've been here since Christmas Day. I've been here with my family since Christmas Day, and I've been in the training facility every single morning, working with the medical staff, the coaches that we have here, talking with the players that we've had in, going through each item that we wasn't happy with last year, whether it was you know, in the backroom staff, on the field, the training facility. So those are my responsibilities, and when I commit to something, I very rarely step away from it. So, you know, being here for the last 3 weeks has been very rewarding. A couple of things that have been eye-opening, and that's why we've really made the changes that we've made. I felt that it was important to install the culture that we expect at this club, the hard work that we expect at this club, and also, you know, we've spoke about the young players that are around, you know, our city, and the real opportunity and potential that we have, and we need people within this club that are going to work with these young kids. It's not just about our top team, our first team. It's about the academy. It's about the USL. It's about the potential that runs through this club, and that was the most important thing for me to see and to understand, and one of the reasons why we have made the changes that we've had. But I'm very happy to be back here. I'm very happy to be more hands-on, and I'll be here as long as it takes to get that right. And I feel that we've made the changes now that will install that culture. But like I said, you know, I think it's so important that, yes, we produce and great soccer players, and also produce the opportunity for these young kids to step up and have success in this game. But more importantly, we want to have the opportunity to bring these young kids in that are going to be made into great human beings.
Thank you, David. Jorge?
Good afternoon, Kobe. I think when you think about and we reflect back on 2020, and you look at the impact of COVID and the starts and stops and the truncated season and the lack of continuity, and you know, some people ask their questions, was it really a true indication and test of you know, people's ability reflected in a full year? And I want to echo something that David just alluded to, which has to do with player development. This is a team and an organization that's going to develop players. We're blessed to live in South Florida, have a significant talent pool that will eventually build up the ranks to young, you know, men and players who aspire to be for the first team. But, you know, I speak on behalf of David and us at the player development side of what happened in 2020. was not to David's satisfaction or ownership satisfaction, especially with some of the young talent on the team. So all of the decisions that we've made are all driven by developing players, about when someone steps foot in Inter Miami as a club, they become a better player and a better person. And we feel that change in leadership was necessary in order to emphasize the things that we as ownership want to emphasize. So I think that David articulated, I think, very, very well exactly what we expect from the leadership at Inter Miami.
Thank you, Kobe. The next question is coming from Felipe Cardenas. Felipe, your line is off mute.
Thank you, Jackie. Good afternoon to everybody, and to Jorge and David. Thank you for your time. This question is for David. What will your involvement be in the dynamics? How will that change in working with Chris and Phil as far as player recruitment, roster strategy, and just organizing the squad to play the style that this club expects to play? How will your involvement change from perhaps what it was with the previous staff?
Well, I think it will change. Firstly, good afternoon. I think it will change, in simple terms, the fact that I'm actually physically here. I think it was very difficult last year, but it was pretty evident that it wasn't exactly how I wanted and how I visioned our team playing, how the development of the players was being done within the club, within the facility. We have one of the best facilities in the US. We have one of the best facilities actually in the game, even through Europe. So, we have to utilize that. We have, like Jorge said, in South Florida, we have such potential with the young kids that we have around our city. And my working with Chris and working with Phil, we'll be very hands-on. Like I said, I've been in the training facility for the last 2.5-3 weeks, every single day, going through the details of what it needs to make sure that this club is treated and is seen as one of the top clubs in the game. And I think that was why it was so important to make the changes that we needed to make sooner rather than later. With obviously Chris coming in, and Chris's experience, speaks for itself. His history speaks for itself. He's a hard-working, and the experience that he has will be so important for this club. And obviously Phil, I've known Phil for a number of years, since we were probably 15, 16 years old. So I know what he's like, his hard work, the ethic that he works with is really incredible, and the loyalty and like I said, the hard work, not just with our top players, but the hard work with our younger players as well. The guys from our city. So that, I think, is integral to the success of our club. Going through the roster, going through the players that we have, that we bring in, player recruitment. I've always been over the. Obviously some of the stuff, but obviously not physically being here. I've had to trust, what was going on. But I think that going forward, I will be over every single player that comes into this club. I will be over every single player that we are looking at, that we are interested in, and also be over every single player that is at this club, because I think that it's important that we have a culture here that we are looking after our players, looking after the players that are going to stay at the club, also looking after the players that leave the club, because I think it's so important to have a reputation that runs through our club, that players don't want to leave, or they do want to come, or when they do leave, they speak about our club as if, they've been here for 10, 20 years. So I think that culture will be introduced even more so with Chris and with Phil's leadership.
Thank you, Felipe. We'll take 2 more questions. We'll go ahead and start with Jeff and end with Mike Cugno. Jeff, your line is off mute.
Thank you. Jeff Carlisle with ESPN. My question is for David. David, just in looking at the reaction to the hiring of Phil Neville, it's been suggested that the hiring was driven in large part by your relationship with him. What's your response to that? And what is it about Phil's coaching experience that you think makes him well suited for this?
Well, of course. Firstly, good afternoon. My relationship with Philip, like I said, I've known him since I was 15, 16 years old, from a young kid. And I know what he's like. I knew what he was like as a player. I know what he's like as a human being. I know what his work ethic is like. Him and his brother Gary. I've never seen two players work as hard at their game in my whole career. So to actually have someone like that come into this club, of course, people are always going to turn around and say, oh, it's because he's your friend. It's nothing to do with him being my friend. I'm an owner of a club with Jorge. Our ownership group don't just employ our friends. We employ the best people, whether it's on the field, off the field, in our backroom staff, the staff that we have working at our training facility, at the stadium. We're running a serious soccer club here, and I think at the end of the day, we hire people that we feel are best suited for the job. And my loyalty to Phil has always been there, because as a player, I relied on him to keep making those runs by the side of me. I never gave him the ball because I thought I was a better crosser of the ball than he was, so he never got those balls. But I knew that he would keep on making those runs because he knew that was what was best for the team. And he would make those decisions as a coach, not just of our club, but a coach of our academy system, of a coach of our USL team, and as a leader. That's why he's in this position. Nothing to do with the relationship that we have, the friendship that we have, the loyalty that we have to each other. He's the right man for the job. And I've already seen, since he's been here for the last week, his work ethic, what he's done with the medical team, what the changes that he's made with the coaching staff, the changes that he's made with the players, the changes that he's made throughout the facility, is so important. And that's what I expect of our football club. And that's what I expect from Phil as a coach. So he's the right man.
I'd like to interject something. And good afternoon, Jeff. How are you? I hope you and the family are well. And I'll say it in maybe more direct terms than David can. Phil Neville was not handed the Inter Miami job. Phil Neville earned the job. There was a very thorough interview process with multiple candidates. As you may imagine, the Inter Miami head coaching position is an extremely attractive position. There were inquiries and interests from coaches from all over the globe. We and David as well conducted multiple interviews for the head coaching job with a myriad of candidates with different backgrounds. So, Phil earned it. Phil is the right man for the job at this time. So, the fact that he's David's friend is a reality, and no one runs from that. Actually, we embrace it, but he wasn't given or handed the job because he's friends with David Beckham or solely because of his relationship with David Beckham. Phil Neville earned his job, and I'm very proud as a co-owner of this club to have Phil on board. And as well as when you speak to Chris Henderson before, again, Chris earned this job. Again, this is a very, very attractive position. I think Chris is uber qualified for what we want to do, but more importantly, it's Chris and Phil together. That combination is extremely important, that they work together, that they be on the same page, that they be coordinated in terms of how do we build the roster, what do we do, David's involvement, how do we fill international slots. I mean, all of the things that go into that, but I want to be very, very clear that from amongst the ownership group that, Phil earned his job, and I'm extremely proud today to be here as part of his presentation.
Thank you, Jeff. And the last question will go to Mike Hugno. Mike, your line is off mute.
All right, well, Jorge, I was going to follow up with that question to you. But you guys mentioned the academy and how important that was. So I guess this could be for both of you. To see a guy like Felipe Valencia come up and make that transition through the academy and through the program, how important was a step like that for your organization to take?
That was my dream, to be honest. When I first started this 8 years ago, I was lucky to have been obviously involved with one of probably the most successful academy systems within Manchester United, and Phil was part of that as well. And I always knew that that was going to be the culture, the DNA, and what created the community of our club. Yes, we want to bring, great players and great names into our club, but the DNA of this club has to be what comes through our academy system. And the young guys that we have here and the potential of the guys that we have here is huge and could be so much bigger. So to have the right coaches, to have the right culture, to have the right DNA to bring these players through, this is what makes us as owners proud. Yes, like I said, we want to bring big names in, and we have done so far. But I think the proudest moment for us as owners and as a club and as a family and with our fans, there's nothing prouder than seeing a homegrown player come through our system and play at the highest level. I had it at Manchester United, and whatever player we brought into the club, whatever player that came in and was a big signing, I don't think anything compared to the young players that we're bringing through, that were being brought through the academy system, that were going into our first team. If you speak to any Manchester United, any Manchester United fan, they will tell you that moment where a young kid comes through our academy system and competes at the highest level and then also goes on to play for their national teams, that's what makes a club proud. That's what gives a club their DNA. And that's what we're so proud of already. We have young players that are coming through, like you said, and also, a player like Ian Frey. We have young players. We don't want to put too much expectation on these players. We don't want to put too much pressure on these players. But if they're good enough, it doesn't matter what age they are, they will be given a chance. They will be given a chance by Phil. They will be given a chance by Chris, our coaching staff, and everyone involved in this club, because that is the club that we want to be. We want to be known as one of these great academies that has produced some great players that have come through as homegrown talent, so our fans can sit in that stadium and their parents can sit in that stadium and see these young players come through and play at the highest level. That will be the proudest moment for us, and that is what is so important for us. And that was my dream from day one, that the academy system is so strong and better than anyone else's.
David, Jorge, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.